In this video, I'm gonna show you all a simple 3-point lighting setup that you guys can use for dramatic fitness and athletic portraiture. Okay, so here's the story. A couple years back, a friend and fitness trainer reached out to me and said that he has a celebrity client that wants me to do a fitness photo shoot. I arrive and we're photographing Tarek El Moussa. He's the co-star of Flip or Flop, a popular show on HGTV. Now, I didn't know at the time, but Tarek had gone through a crazy health transformation and he wanted to show that to the world to inspire his followers. Little did we know that the images would actually go viral, being featured on TMZ and tons of other media outlets. But the actual lighting setup and photographs are very simple to create, and I'm gonna show you how we did it here. What makes this fun and approachable is that you can do it anywhere, and I'm gonna show you how to do it with the gear that you already have. In fact, this photograph wasn't even taken inside of a studio. We did it on a random basketball court inside of a gym. All right, so jumping in, tip number one, fitness and athletic portraiture, at least on the dramatic side, is really all about the shadows and the highlights. We need the shadows and the highlights to basically reveal and show definition in the body and muscle structure. Let's look at the behind the scenes while I draw you out the lighting diagram. And unbeknownst to Joe, I ended up using him as my stand-in without a shirt. You know, so I could see the shadows and stuff. All right, so we're gonna say that this is our subject, and the first light that we're placing down was actually a Profoto B1 with a beauty dish. So here we're gonna go B1, and this is a beauty dish right here, and it's angled towards the model, kind of just above his head and angled down towards him. This is our primary light source, and it's gonna give us a nice and kind of edgy light, and it's using a beauty dish with a grid to control the light spill and kind of highlight the face. Now, for the other two lights, well, you can set these up however you like, but they're basically just strip boxes that are off to the side and angled towards the subject. So we're gonna call this strip box number 1 and strip box number 2. Now, personally, I shoot Profoto because they make reliable and quality gear that I can take into commercial and client shoots and never have to worry. But I understand that each of you might be on a budget, you might be working into this type of gear, so let me give you some alternative options. Number 1, in place of our beauty dish, if you guys don't have a beauty dish or if you don't have a B1, it's okay. When we're shooting indoors like this, we honestly only need about 50 watt-seconds of power. In addition, a standard softbox is gonna do the trick, and if it has a grid, that's even better. So a flash with a softbox is gonna get you enough light as your main, again, when working indoors. Next, for the strip boxes, again, we're using 2 other B1s, but once again, we don't need a ton of power. And here we're using 1x6 on both sides, and if you don't have that, it's okay too, because you can use a standard flash with a grid on it just to control light and make sure it's not spilling to the camera, and if you place it a little bit further back, it's still gonna edge out the body. Will it look a tiny bit different? Yeah, but it's gonna be incredibly similar. When we're working indoors, we don't need a crazy amount of power on these rims, maybe around 25 watt-seconds on each side, or around half power on those flashes. The benefit of shooting with a B1 is we can take this same setup outside, inside, bright sun, and shoot with plenty of power on the go. So lighting diagram aside, we have tip number 2, which is basically working the angle of the body. Once your lights are set up and you've got everything kind of dialed in, at that point, you don't need to really shift around your lights anymore. Now you're gonna create the shadow and the definition that you need by changing the angle of your subject's body in relation to the camera. So for our shots, and just to pull out our diagram again, we actually end up having Tarek kind of angle his body with his back towards our strip box number 2 and kind of facing this way, as you'll see in the behind the scenes video. From there, tip number 3 is to put your subject into a unique pose that will emphasize different muscle groups and shapes of the body. You'll notice that these poses are not things that you might typically do, but they do a great job of flexing muscle groups and really showing off the definition in the body. Now, just as a brief side note, you'll notice in the video that I'm actually sitting quite far back and shooting on the 7200. The reason for this, I'm zooming all the way in at 170, and shooting this far back with the hood kind of let me control what light was entering in the lens. So if you find that you're shooting close to your subjects and your strip boxes are spilling directly into your lens and causing flares, you can stand further back and zoom in to get the shot. Let's jump into Lightroom, and while we do, I have a little bonus tip. If you want a little bit of shine and that specular look, that glisten on the body, well, create a water and glycerin mixture in a spray bottle and spray the subject's body. We didn't do that for Tarek, but it's another cool thing you can do in your fitness and athletic portraiture. So you're looking at the raw file here inside of Post, and just to give you guys an idea, we shot this at 1/100 of a second at 5.6 and ISO 200. So you can see that we're not gonna need a ton of power, and we had a lot of range to work in this shot. You can also see how the background kind of just drops away, and we end up almost having this very cool kind of mousseline look with what was a white wall. It was a white wall that had like all sorts of smudge marks and things, and once we darken it down, it looked pretty cool. So all we really need to do to this image is brighten it up. And this is a little trick here. With fitness portraits, again, what we really want is, with a dramatic shot like this, the mid-tone contrast to be boosted. So all we're really doing for a shot like this is I am reducing the vibrance just a little bit. It's just a simple way of getting the skin tones a little bit less kind of nuclear in color tone. And what we're gonna do is just increase in clarity. And at around plus 60, you don't wanna go too high or too low, but what this does is it pulls apart the mid-tone contrast, creating more contrast in those mid-tones, but also giving us better shadows and better highlights and kind of just really finishing the image for us. Now, if you look, well, I did a tiny bit of retouch and kind of cleanups in the background. You might want to do a little bit of dodging and burning, but for the most part, it is the final image. In fact, if we switched over to the final images that were plastered all over the place, you can see that they're pretty much straight out of camera. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, comment below, and let us know what you think. If you guys are interested in any of the gear or things that we talked about, we're placing all those links in the description as well as in the article below. My name is Pi, and I'll see you guys in the next video.